with the youngest, most daring, intrepid, gutsy, fearless host on the planet. Get ready for Jake's Takes. Here's Jake.
Welcome back. I am Jake, and this is Jake's Takes, where I get your favorite athletes and stars to open up and speak what's really on their minds. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you won't believe the guests I have lined up. We got an incredible guest today on Jake's Takes. For 9 seasons, he was the head coach of Niagara University's basketball team. In the 92-93 season, he led the Niagara Purple Eagles to a 23-7 record and was named the New York State Division I Coach of the Year. At age 26, he became the youngest basketball coach in NCAA Division I. Prior to joining Niagara University as their head coach, he served for 4 years as an assistant coach at Fordham University in New York. He eventually transitioned into broadcasting, and boy is he a legend. His broadcast work has earned him multiple Canadian Screen Awards. His vast knowledge and passion are well known and respected throughout the basketball world, and he's credited to helping an entire nation fall in love with Canada's basketball team. As TSN's basketball insider, he keeps fans in the loop and on all things NBA and college hoops. He also joins Toronto Raptors play-by-play announcer Matt Devlin, otherwise known as Matty D, as a game analyst for all Raptors broadcasts on TSN. Throughout the NBA season, he's featured in regular segments on TSN SportsCenter and writes a weekly NBA blog for TSN. It's my absolute honor to welcome to Jake's Takes, the voice of the Raptors we all love, the one, the only, Mr. Jack Armstrong! What's up, Jack? Bonjour! How you doing?
Hello! How are you, Jake? And it's an honor and privilege to be here with you. I'm excited to be on the show with you, and I've heard great things about how you're doing in your early young career, and you got a great future ahead of you. And I'm pumped up, and I'm fired up that I could be on with you today, and looking forward to chatting for a few minutes with you about the Raptors and the NBA. I mean, really, as we tape this today, the season starts in 6 days. So I'm really, really fired up about it. This is my 24th year this season with the Raptors. I started in 1998. Vince Carter's rookie year was my rookie year. And here I am 24 years later. So I'm honored and privileged to work in a tremendous market like Toronto and have our games all across the country on national television. So it's quite a thrill.
Wait, that means that you had 2 of the best rookies of all time in Raptors history on the same year.
Well, yeah, I would say we had one in Vince Carter. I don't know about me, but I know Vince Carter.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? So I know you're on a tight schedule, Jack, so let's jump right into it. I made sure to work hard to prepare only the good questions. And as for the bad questions, well, get that garbage out of here!
I like it. Get it.
So you ready, Jack?
I'm ready.
So I had Coach Nurse on my podcast in the summer before the NBA draft. And it was interesting to hear that he thought that the Raptors weren't going to rebuild, that they were going to retool and bring in some veterans and stuff. But that didn't really happen now, did it?
Well, I think they are in a retooling phase. I like their talent. I had the opportunity to sit and watch practice for a few days in training camp, and then obviously I've done the games for the preseason. I think they have a nice base of talent. And, is it retooling? Is it transitional? I would say it's a little bit of both. But I like kind of the base that they're working from and the foundation they have in place. Think about it. We've watched the preseason and we haven't seen Pascal Siakam and Chris Boucher. I think, you add those two guys to the mix that they currently have. I think the front office has done a good job from a personnel perspective, kind of changing how the team looks and how they play. I think Nick Nurse is, in my opinion, one of the more creative, adaptable coaches in the NBA, and he will take what he has in front of him and he'll figure out ways to get that group to perform at a high level. So, obviously there'll be some moments where they struggle, and particularly, a lot of times that happens when you're on the road, when you have a few younger players, a little more inexperienced. So those moments will happen. But I kind of like the core they have in place and the direction they want to go in. And, Jake, this is kind of like the beginning again of the march and the build towards getting to where you want to get to. And I look back at the 7-year run that started in 2014, making the playoffs, and then finished, with 2020, where the year after they won the title, they were in the playoffs 7 straight years. If I could snap my fingers right now and just close my eyes and say, give me that 7-year run again, where do I sign up? So I feel like they're in that stage again, like when DeMar DeRozan was a young player, and Kyle Lowry had just come over to the team, and there'll be some bumpy roads along the way, but little by little, they'll figure it out. I have a lot of confidence in the front office. They've done a great job. They are doing a great job, and I think the coaching staff is again, they teach the game, they coach guys up. They're very good at what they do. So they'll figure it out. Am I guaranteeing an NBA championship this year or anything like that? No, I'd be nuts to do that. What I'm saying, though, is they'll be a tough out. And I think they'll improve as they go along. Their margin of error is slim. The injuries, this is a team that needs to be running on all cylinders. And it'll be a bit of a challenge early in the season without Siakam and Boucher. The good thing, though, is there's a lot more home games early on than road, which I think with a young team that's missing a few guys, that's helpful to a degree.
Jack, one of the things that I found a huge problem last year was their front court. I mean, the losses of Ibaka and Gasol really left the front court very exposed. Boucher did have a fantastic year, but he's not your traditional big man. And we're not going to talk about Aaron Baines. But I got to talk to you about 4th overall pick, Scottie Barnes. I'm only 11, so I don't really remember the Raptors getting an early pick. And everyone's projecting Jalen Suggs, and then Masai does it again. But so far, Scottie's length, his boxing out, and his on-ball D have been stellar. Even his passing has stood out to me. What are you expecting from Scottie in his rookie year?
Well, Jake, 2 things. Number one, just to touch on your point about the front court, when I look at the 5 spot right now, and I look at a guy like Precious Achiuwa and Kem Birch, and I look at the length that they have, I think they'll be fine at the 5 spot. And quite frankly, if they had those 2 guys last year, the entire year, they'd probably, obviously, they had the issues with the COVID breakout. But if they were healthy last year, they're a playoff team with those guys. So to me, I think they've really upgraded at the 5 spot. And I think they're very mobile and very capable of being helpful. And then to answer your question about Scottie Barnes, I made the point, my first year was Vince Carter's rookie year, but when I got here, Tracy McGrady was here. And, Tracy McGrady, and I mentioned this on the air the other night, what did Isaiah Thomas see when he drafted T-Mac right out of high school? That was a big risk. That was a big, and back then, you had Kevin Garnett coming out of high school and Kobe Bryant, a few other guys. But T-Mac was probably a little lesser known quantity than a lot of other people. I was a college coach at the time when Tracy was playing in high school, as I was when Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant, I saw all those guys play in high school. But your job is to project and say, what's this guy going to look like, 3 to 5 to 7 years? And I think the decision they made was they feel like 5-7 years down the road, they feel like Scottie Barnes has a higher ceiling than Jalen Suggs and the other guys that were picked after them. Now, only time will tell if they were right or wrong. But the thing that I feel is that I get why they like them. I totally get what they saw in them. I totally get why they're intrigued with him, because I'm intrigued with him. He handles it really well. He's got good size. He's got good peripheral vision. He sees all other 9 guys on the floor. It's like a good young quarterback that can, when you watch a football game and they talk about the all 22, I think Scottie Barnes has a sense of what's going on around him. He passes it. He's got length. He can guard a lot of positions. He's going to get stronger. He's got a nice in-between game. He plays at a controlled speed. You can't speed him up, which is a sign of a good player. He knows what works for him. And, he'll have some challenges during the year. No doubt he's going to struggle at times. But I like what I see, and he's barely scratching the surface at this point. And the best is yet to come. So, obviously, people focus on his shooting. But I look at his mechanics. His mechanics, they're fine. It's just a matter of, tightening them and getting consistency. It's the old line. Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So being precise, and I think the Raptors coaching staff does an excellent job with player development. It's like trying to go from being a 7 handicap to a 2 handicap. It's starting to, how do you, I wouldn't know that because I'm a terrible golfer, but I'm using it as an example. How do you cut out, 5 strokes out of your game? And it's the same thing for a guy like Scottie Barnes. How do you get from being a guy that's playing a lot on ability to getting to a point where you're able to process real well and tighten the screws on your shot and your mechanics and all that? But I think there's a lot of really cool things there within his game and within his personality, his makeup. I think he has it. And I think he's going to end up being a really good player. I think he's a guy that, is he ever going to be an explosive 25-point scorer? Or is he ever going to be a guy that's getting 10 rebounds a game, whatever? I don't know. I just know that he's a guy, as he goes along and gets better and better, he's going to be able to impact the game on multitude of fronts. He'll fill the stat sheet in a lot of ways. And I think with guys like that, the more they play and the more comfortable they get, the more impactful they become, and they really start to elevate their game in a lot of different silos.
Jack, I know we talked about this tons of time. People are going to be talking about this for the next years. And I know it's way too early already, but just listen to the stats. Scottie's had 5 games in the preseason. He averaged about 26 minutes, 10 points, 47% from the field, 5 boards, and 5.6 assists. And then Jalen Suggs, 3 games played, 23 minutes, 5 points, 27. His field goal percentage was 27%, 3.7 boards, and 3 assists. Ah, my gosh. That's a big drop.
Well, yeah, but I will defend Jalen Suggs. I mean, I don't think that's fair to him right now. I mean, I think it's such a small sample size. Again, that's why I think your job as a scout, as an executive, as a coach, I mean, I was a college coach for 14 years in terms of recruiting. Your job is to always look down the road and say, what's this guy going to be 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now? And that was my point about Tracy McGrady. I mean, I look at the Raptors draft night trade from Antoine Jamison to Vince Carter. Antoine Jamison had a heck of a pro career, but they felt Vince Carter had another gear, another notch on his belt that he could get to. And Vince Carter in his prime, quite frankly, respectfully to Antoine Jamison, had another gear. He had a little more giddy up in his game. And I think that's what they look at with, a guy like Scottie Barnes. And so to me, the other thing is too, the Raptors have more of a residue of winning. They're a winning organization. And I think Orlando's had some tough runs lately. So I don't think the supporting cast maybe for him and the habits that they maybe have there are the same as maybe Toronto has. I mean, new coaching staff, there's a lot of different things in play. But to me, again, I just think that only time will tell. But I'm happy the Raptors picked Scottie Barnes, and I'm excited. And you made a great point. Not only did he have close to 6 assists a game, he took care of the ball too. He was very responsible with the ball. So again, he has a nice way about him. I like his game. I'm intrigued by it. I can see why they love him.
Jack, do you have any early thoughts for a good nickname for Scottie? I mean, you can't let Matty D get to that before you.
Well, I'm always, Scottie B right away. I've been saying Scottie B in the house. I haven't really given that a lot of thought. I don't give a lot of that stuff, honestly, a lot of thought. It just comes out of me. Whatever kind of comes to my head. I'm more of a stream of consciousness guy. Probably not a good idea sometimes, but whatever kind of inspires me and provokes me and catches my eye and catches my soul. There's a lot of times when I just blurt out. But he's going to be fun. He's going to be fun. And again, I just caution people because it's going to happen. He's going to have some nights where he doesn't look good. He's going to have some nights where he struggles. That's coming. It's going to happen. But he's also going to have a bunch of nights where you go, woo, this young man's got a chance.
Scottie.
But that's, again, you take the good with the bad, and they're going to throw him in there and, throw him in the deep end. And sometimes you get chewed up out there in the deep ocean, and other times you're able to swim to safety and figure it out. So, but I like their approach with him, and I like his approach. He looks like a great teammate. I'll tell you one quick story, Jake. I was at training camp, and I'm sitting watching practice, and Scottie Barnes walks right over to me, and he says, "Hi, I want to introduce myself. My name is Scottie Barnes." Firm handshake, eye contact. And, the old line, first impressions are lasting, and you don't get a second chance to make the right first impression. So to me, as a former coach, as a parent raising 3 boys, I'm a big believer in first impressions and how you carry yourself. So, we had a nice little chit chat, and he was like, I really look forward to seeing a lot of you and meet and spending time with you. And I'm like, wow. That's a terrific young man. That's a gentleman. And I applaud his family, and I applaud his teachers, and I applaud his coaches for creating a foundation for him in his life that he understands how important that is. So it's not just the on-court stuff. It's the off-court stuff. They got a guy of good character.
Okay, before we talk about the backcourt and the loss of Kyle Lowry, I want to ask you about GTJ, Gary Trent Jr. Looking back at the trade, both Powell and Trent just signed new deals in the offseason. Powell signed 5-year $90 million, and Trent signed 3-year $51 million. Leaving the term aside, the average of the salary per year is pretty much the same. Trent's getting $17 million, and Powell's getting $18 million. With that being said, if the cap hit is the same, who do you choose right now? Would you rather have Norm or Trent Jr.?
Well, that's a difficult question because it depends on where you are as a team, and where you're going. If I'm a little more established and I'm a little closer to, getting into the second round of the playoffs, yada, 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 whatever, you always want more experience. That always helps. So Norm Powell's a more experienced player than Gary Trent Jr. I think where the Raptors are, though, in terms of retooling, resetting, whatever it may be, I think Gary Trent's probably a better fit for where they are, where they want to go right now, because he can grow with them and they can grow with him. So I've been really impressed in the preseason of how hard he's playing, how engaged he is defensively. I think it was Monday night or something against the Rockets. I think he had like 9-10 assists. I mean, 9-10 deflections, excuse me. And so I'm really impressed with just how hard he's playing. His offense has been a little up and down. But again, I think, they've had some lineups that maybe aren't as traditional because you're in the preseason. You're trying to get a lot of looks at a lot of different guys. But I think when he gets into a normal rotation where he knows when he's playing, he knows where his shots are coming from, I think his offensive consistency will settle in, and he'll be a very good player offensively. He can score, and he's strong, and he's tough. But the thing I like about him that compared to what I saw of him in his short stint at the end of the year with the Raptors was I think he's buying in more to what they need him to do defensively. And again, we know he can score. We know he'll do those things. So I'm confident that'll come around. So I guess to answer your question, I think where the Raptors are organizationally right now, Trent's probably a better fit for where they want to go and what they're trying to do because what is he, 5-6 years younger than Norm Powell?
Yeah, he's like 24.
Yeah. So to me, when he gets to 26, 27, you still have his rights. And maybe he's blown up by them and he's that much better. Well, now he's one of your cornerstone pieces. So to me, I think it's a fair deal on both sides.
Okay, so 2 more questions, Jack. And something that concerns me about this team is that they don't really have a natural scorer. They don't have a player who can create a shot off the dribble or just dribble whenever he wants, get buckets whenever he wants. I mean, OG's money, but on the catch and shoot. Same as Fred, but looking at the roster, who's going to be the number 1 natural scorer on this team?
Well, I do think Siakam can do that when he's healthy. I mean, obviously he's going to miss a few weeks at the start of the season, but I have no doubt that Siakam can get by people, get to the rim, and get his own shot. I think OG has improved greatly at that. I think they're going to rely a little more on the pass. I think Scottie Barnes being such a good passer. And I think, Jake, you reach a good point. And I think that Nick Nurse and his staff know this already. I mean, there are going to be times, particularly, again, I said this earlier, particularly on the road, where there'll be moments where they labor in the 5-on-5 grind out half-court game, and a good team will slow you down eventually and make you have to execute. They'll have some difficulty at times generating high percentage shots. That will happen. And a lot of times when you have an elite offensive player that attracts the double team, now that allows 4-on-3 play somewhere else, more space, more real estate, more driving lanes. So guys that are pretty good players become good players. Guys that are good players become very good players because the defense isn't dialed in on them and they're able to get their game off. When teams don't load up the house on one guy and they're more just standard, solid, keep you in front, now you got to generate stuff to get good shots. And a lot of times that means you got to have a guy who can really get his own. They'll figure it out, but I tell you what, you look at a guy like Mahailu, who's had a good preseason. He's got a little more you-know-what in his game than I thought. I mean, he can put it down 2 or 3 bounces and get into the painted area and make plays. Danton has a lot of that. Now, he's young and he'll make mistakes, but I'm fascinated and intrigued by him. I did his high school all-star game, the BioSteel game, and I was shocked that he was going to go to Western Kentucky. I'm like, this guy is an elite player. I called a few of my college friends. I was like, if I were coaching in college, I'd be sitting outside his front door every day until I got his signature on a piece of paper to come to my school. And he ended up going from Western Kentucky to Nebraska, but I think he's got a chance to be good. So they have a lot of cool pieces. But I guess the most important thing I would say to you, Jake, is the fact that I think the way they're trying to play, hard ball pressure, get out in the passing lanes, really emphasizing coming up with deflections, trying to play with pace, trying to play quick, will help them not get bogged down. But there are going to be nights that you do get bogged down because you're playing a back-to-back, or you've played a number of games in a short period of time, or you're traveling and the travel schedule isn't favorable. Those will be the moments that they'll have some challenges, and they got to figure it out. But they have a creative coach. They have smart guys that know how to play. And I look at a guy like OG Anunoby. He's showing me that he has more tools in the toolkit right now than he's shown in his previous years. So there is room for growth. And will it be perfect? No, far from it. But I think they understand who they are, what they can do, and what they can't do.
Last question, Jack. This is a big one. We all know the hot take. Was it the right move for the New Orleans Pelicans to take Zion over Ja? As of right now, who has been the better player? In my opinion, I take Ja every single day.
Well, it's funny. Right before we got on this podcast, literally, and we're taping it again on Thursday, October 14th, I got a notification saying that Zion Williamson will not be ready to start the season next week. So I would say this: the best ability is availability. So, my thing, as much as he's physically imposing and impressive, the most important ability is availability. So to me, I still think it's early in the game to be able to say, would you rather have Ja or rather have Zion? Me personally, a guy of Zion's talents is intriguing. The problem is you start on a team like New Orleans, and you've already had a few different coaches, and it's not, it's not great fan base. And there's a lot of things you look at and you go, if he started somewhere else, where would this thing go? But I would have to say, if I had to sit in a room and make a decision on him or Ja, I would go with Zion. But, so far the situation in New Orleans hasn't worked great, and now the pressure is going to build on their organization internally to make it right. And the pressure is going to build on him and his people because, unfortunately, a lot of these media outlets, particularly in the United States, like ESPN, are always trying to force guys or get guys to go to New York, LA, the big markets, Miami, and which isn't fair if you're running a team like New Orleans. But I just think, for me, I think he's a great talent. The question is he going to be able to give you 70 games plus a year? And the other thing, too, with Ja Morant, as great as he is, that's the position that I think you can find guys more. There's a lot of point guards out there. Not many as good as Ja Morant, but there are a lot of point guards out there. So, but when you get a special, explosive wing talent, you gotta think about that guy could really be a difference maker. Again, he's got to be healthy, though.
Jack, this has been an absolute honor to have you on my show to talk hoops. Did you enjoy your time with me today?
I had a great time. Bucket! You are a tremendously talented young man, Jake. And the thing I love about you is not only your enthusiasm, but your preparation. You're professional and you're prepared. What's the old line? The 5 Ps, right? Proper planning prevents poor performance, right? And you have a plan. You're organized. Plan your work your plan, right? And I'm impressed with the research that you've done. And as a broadcaster, as a former coach, that's an important thing, to be able to dot I's and cross T's, because the devil's in the details. And the best broadcasters, the best coaches, the best executives, the best leaders, whatever the case may be, whoever is good at any job, you got to be on top of your game. And to me, I'm really impressed with how hard you work at it and the future that you have. And keep doing it, man. Stay with it and work at it and have a love affair with it. And you seem to have a love affair with sports and stay with it. So I encourage you and think you got a tremendous future ahead of you. So keep it going.
Thank you so much.